Have you ever felt helpless after your daughter whispered, "Please don't leave me here"? That's exactly what my daughter Maddie told me when I tried dropping her at my ex-wife's house for the weekend. She was in the passenger seat and had her sleeves rolled all the way down even though it was the middle of summer. I told her we could go back to my place, and she said thank you, but didn't smile. In fact, she hadn't smiled ever since my ex-wife had started dating a guy named Doug. I had tried asking multiple times if something was wrong because his smile had rubbed me the wrong way, but Maddie would remain silent, and my ex-wife would tell me to stop worrying so much. I trusted her, mainly because she was still Maddie's mother and would surely take action if Maddie was being hurt. Unfortunately, I was completely wrong. That Wednesday, I was sitting on the couch with Maddie when I asked her again, "So why don't you want to go to your mom's house?" She looked down into her hands and answered softly, "It's Doug." I froze and asked her, "What about Doug?" And she said, "He touches me." That was it. I felt the air leaving my lungs, and though I asked her to explain, she just shook her head and curled up into a ball. I told her she would never have to go back there, not even for a minute. The next morning, I took her to her pediatrician, who told me she had bruises on her arms and abdomen. Then I drove her to a therapist I found online who specialized in abuse cases. I spent hours outside the room during her sessions, feeling like a storm was moving under my skin. The therapist confirmed signs of trauma. She said Maddie wasn't ready to talk details, but the patterns were all there, and whatever happened probably happened more than once. That night, I drove to my ex's house, and when I was in front of my ex, I told her, "Maddie said Doug's been touching her, and I need you to do something about it right now." She actually laughed at what I said and replied, "Maddie's just been watching too many TV shows. Doug would never do something like that, and if this is a ploy from you to get full custody, just forget it." I tried telling her about the therapist and the bruises, but she shut the door in my face. I filed for emergency custody immediately, but the court gave us a hearing date that was 2 weeks out. That meant Maddie was expected to still go to my ex's house that weekend. I absolutely refused to send her there and told my ex that she needed to trust her daughter more than her boyfriend. In response, she showed up at my house with 2 cops. I tried explaining how my daughter was in danger if she went to that house, but they said their hands were tied and I couldn't just withhold custody. Maddie clutched my shirt but eventually had to leave, so I told her to be brave. I couldn't sleep at all and kept pacing around, wondering if Doug was at the house or not. That's when I received a message from Maddie's iPad. "Daddy, Doug is trying to enter my room and Mom isn't here. Please help me." I didn't even think twice before rushing over. I had forgotten about my ex's night shifts, so this meant Doug had free reign at that house. I sped through 6 red lights and broke about a dozen laws trying to get there in time. When I finally knocked on the door, Doug opened it with a smile and said, "Hey man, what's up?" I punched him before he could finish and tackled him to the floor with a thud. "She's 11! Freaking 11! How dare you go near her!" He tried grabbing my arm, but I drove my elbow into his ribs. Then I proceeded to land 11 strikes. "If you ever come near Maddie again, I won't stop at 11. I took Maddie home with me. In court, I had testimonies from both the pediatrician and the therapist, as well as the fact that Doug had left town after my warning. But my ex still didn't give up. She argued that Maddie should still have her mother's presence in her life. I couldn't hold back and yelled at her right there in court. "You mean the same mother who willingly let her boyfriend touch my innocent daughter?" She also lost her cool and said, "What if she has to bear a little pain if it means I can be happy with my man? She's pretty much supposed to do that as my daughter." I think she realized what she had said a second too late. I was granted full custody, and she wasn't even given supervised visitations unless and until I agreed to them beforehand. Maddie still doesn't talk much, but at least she has stopped wearing long sleeve shirts in the middle of summer.